Imagine for a moment that you are in a cave 60,000 years ago. Everything is silent, except for the wind blowing outside and the crackling of the fire. Suddenly, someone blows across a bone with holes, and the first musical sound of humanity emerges. That moment changed everything forever. Brothers and sisters, music was not born in conservatories or recording studios. It was born in the coldest caves of Europe, when our ancestors took a bird bone, made some holes with stone tools, and created something that would forever revolutionize the human experience. This is not just the story of how music was invented. It is the story of how our ancestors discovered they could create beauty amid the most brutal survival. It's the story of how a simple hole in a bone became the first step toward all symphonies, all songs, and all the music we know today. In 2008, archaeologists found something in a cave in Germany that would forever change our understanding of human history. A flute made from a vulture bone, 35,000 years old. It was the definitive proof that our ancestors not only survived, but also created art, beauty, and music. But here's the amazing part. This flute was not an isolated case. Similar instruments have been found throughout Europe, some even older. We are talking about a cultural revolution that took place long before the pyramids were built, long before writing was invented, long before any civilization we know of. Today, we will discover how our ancestors, armed with only stone tools and infinite creativity, created something that still moves us to tears. We will explore how a simple hole in a bone became the birth of one of the most powerful expressions of humanity. To grasp the magnitude of this discovery, we need to transport ourselves to a completely different world. 60,000 years ago, human life was a constant struggle against the elements. There were no cities, no agriculture, and nothing resembling the comforts we know today. The world was filled with natural sounds, the roar of wild animals, the whistling of the wind through the rocks, the crunching of branches, the dripping of water in caves. But there was no music. There were no melodies. There were no rhythms created by human hands. Our ancestors communicated with grunts, gestures, and very basic words. They lived in small groups, hunted giant animals like mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses, and spent nights around the fire, probably telling stories we can't even imagine. Survival was all that mattered, finding food, staying warm, protecting themselves from predators, and caring for the children. There was no time for what we would consider art or entertainment, or so we thought until we found the flutes, because it turns out our ancestors had something we sometimes lose in our modern world, the ability to create beauty even under the harshest conditions. They had a deep need to express themselves, to communicate in ways that went beyond mere survival. And it was in this world, seemingly dominated solely by daily struggles, that someone had a brilliant idea. Someone looked at a bird bone, imagined they could make something special with it, and decided to experiment. That moment was the birth of music. In 2008, in the caves of Hohlefels in southern Germany, archaeologists made a discovery that literally rewrote history books. Among the remnants of ancient campfires and stone tools, they found something extraordinary. A flute made from a vulture bone, 35,000 years old. But it wasn't just any flute. It was perfect. It had 5 holes made with a precision that would blow your mind. Each hole was placed exactly where it needed to be to produce different musical notes. Scientists studying it realized immediately that this was no accident. The flute measured about 22 centimeters long and was made from the wing bone of a griffon vulture. Why a vulture? Because the bones of these birds are naturally hollow and have the perfect shape for making wind instruments. Our ancestors knew exactly what they were doing. But here's the most incredible part. This flute was not alone. In the same region, archaeologists found other flutes, some even older. One flute made from mammoth ivory was 40,000 years old. Another made from swan bone. It was as if they had discovered an entire prehistoric musical tradition. Scientists rushed to make exact replicas of these flutes, using the same techniques that our ancestors would have used. When they played them for the first time in 35,000 years, the sound that emerged sent chills down their spines. They were clear, sweet melodies, surprisingly modern. Further analysis revealed that these flutes could produce complex musical scales. They weren't just random noises or casual sounds. They were sophisticated musical instruments capable of creating melodies that we would recognize as real music. This discovery completely changed our understanding of prehistoric humans. We could no longer see them as primitive beings merely concerned with survival. They were artists, musicians, creators of beauty in a world we would consider impossibly harsh. Can you imagine the moment they first played those flutes after 35,000 years? If this story excites you as much as it excites me, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible discoveries like this. To truly understand how revolutionary this discovery is, we need to talk about something fascinating: how our brains work when we listen to music. Because it turns out humans have something unique in the animal kingdom, a brain designed to create and enjoy music. When we listen to music, our brains activate multiple areas at the same time. The auditory cortex processes the sounds, the cerebellum manages the rhythm, and the limbic system produces the emotions we feel. It's like our entire brain is an orchestra working in perfect harmony. But here's the cool part. This brain system didn't evolve overnight. Our ancestors already had these abilities 60,000 years ago. Their brains could process melodies, recognize musical patterns, and feel emotions through sounds, just like ours can today. Scientists have recreated these prehistoric flutes using exactly the same materials and techniques our ancestors employed: vulture bones, stone tools, and a lot of patience. When they play these replicas, they can produce musical scales that we would immediately recognize. The most incredible part is that these flutes could produce notes matching musical scales we still use today. They could create melodies in pentatonic scales, which are the same ones found in traditional music, across virtually all cultures around the world. Experiments with these flutes have shown that our ancestors were capable of creating not just pretty sounds but real music, complete with complex melodies, basic harmonies and rhythmic patterns. They had an intuitive understanding of what sounds good and what doesn't. Researchers have also discovered that making these flutes required impressive technical skills. They had to know exactly where to make each hole to produce the right notes. They needed to understand proportions and distances. It was musical engineering without formal mathematics. And here's the mind-blowing part. All this happened in a world where every day was a struggle for survival. Our ancestors found time and energy to create something that didn't help them hunt better, didn't protect them from the cold, and didn't provide more food. They created music for the pure joy of creation. Now here comes the million-dollar question. Why did our ancestors invent music? It wasn't for entertainment after a long day's work like us. In their world, every minute counted for survival. So why spend time and energy making holes in bones? Scientists have several fascinating theories, and probably all of them are correct. Music served multiple functions that were key to human survival and evolution. First theory: music as a communication system. Imagine you're hunting a mammoth with your tribe. You need to coordinate complex movements without alerting the animal. Musical sounds can travel long distances and convey specific information. One rhythm means attack, another means retreat, and another means danger. Second theory: music as social glue. Living in groups was crucial for survival, but maintaining harmony among 20 or 30 people wasn't easy. Music had the power to synchronize emotions, create bonds, and reinforce cooperation. When you play music together, you literally sync your brains. Third theory: music as a courtship tool. Just as birds sing to attract mates, our ancestors might have used music to demonstrate intelligence, creativity, and genetic fitness. A good musician was likely a good candidate for reproduction. Fourth theory: music as a teaching tool. Before writing, all important information was passed down orally. Melodies and rhythms make information easier to remember. Think about how you learned the alphabet, probably by singing. Fifth theory: music as medicine. Many traditional cultures use music for healing, entering trance-like states, and processing trauma. Our ancestors might have discovered that certain sounds had therapeutic effects on the body and mind. Sixth theory: music as spiritual connection. In the caves where the flutes were found, there is also incredible rock art. It seems these places were sacred spaces where music and visual art combined to create profound spiritual experiences. It's likely that music served all these functions and more. It was an incredibly powerful social technology that helped our ancestors survive, thrive, and evolve into what we are today. And here's the cool part. All these functions of music remain relevant today. We still use music to communicate, to create social bonds, to attract mates, to teach, to heal, and to connect with something greater than ourselves. If you're blown away thinking that our ancestors created music for the same reasons we love it today, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content that connects the past with the present. Once our ancestors discovered the power of music, there was no turning back. What began with a simple bone flute turned into a cultural revolution that forever changed the human experience. Music spread like wildfire across human populations. Each group developed its own instruments, melodies, and musical traditions. In Europe, they perfected flutes and created skin drums. In Africa, they developed complex percussion instruments. In Asia, they experimented with rudimentary string instruments. But music didn't just change how the world sounded, it changed how humans thought. Creating and listening to music developed new connections in the brain, improved the ability to recognize patterns, and enhanced communication skills. Music literally made us smarter. It also altered how societies were organized. Groups with strong musical traditions were more united, more cooperative, and more successful at survival. Music became an integral part of the rituals, ceremonies, and celebrations that kept communities together. In the caves of Europe, we find evidence that music was intimately connected with visual art. The places where flutes were discovered also housed some of the most spectacular cave paintings in the world. It was as if our ancestors created the first multimedia concerts in history. Music also changed how humans interacted with their environment. They began to mimic the sounds of nature, creating melodies inspired by birdsong and using rhythms that reflected natural patterns like a heartbeat or footsteps. As human populations expanded across the globe, they carried their musical traditions with them. Each new territory they colonized was gifted with music. The first humans to arrive in the Americas brought musical instruments. Those who settled in Australia developed didgeridoos. Those who remained in Africa created increasingly sophisticated drums. Have you ever wondered what the world would be like if our ancestors never invented music? Do you think we would be the same humans we are today? Or was music key to becoming who we are? And so we reach the present, where that simple bone flute from 35,000 years ago has evolved into the symphonies of Beethoven, Mexican rancheras, the reggaeton playing on the radio, and the music available on your phone right now. It's astounding to think about the continuous line that connects our prehistoric ancestors with today's musicians. Every time you listen to a song, hum a tune, or tap your foot to the rhythm, you are participating in a tradition that began 60,000 years ago. Many of our musical traditions have roots that trace back to prehistoric times. The drum rhythms found in traditional indigenous music, the flutes used in ceremonies, and even some melodic patterns in our folk songs all have connections to those initial musical experiments by our ancestors. What's fascinating is that despite all our modern technology, the fundamental principles of music remain the same. We still use scales similar to those of our ancestors. We still feel the same emotions when we hear melodies. We continue to use music for the same basic functions: communication, social cohesion, courtship, teaching, and healing. Our ancestors didn't have recording studios, but they etched their melodies into the collective memory. They had no amplifiers, yet their voices and instruments resonated within caves. They lacked streaming services, but their songs were passed down through generations for thousands of years. And here's what I find most amazing. In a world where music is instantly available, where you can play any song you want with just a tap on a screen, we still feel the same excitement from music that our ancestors once felt. The power of music is eternal. Next time you hear a song that touches your soul, remember that you're experiencing something that began in a cave 35,000 years ago. You are feeling the same emotions, activating the same brain circuits, and participating in the same human tradition as someone who blew into a hole in a bone for the first time. If this connection between past and present seems as incredible to you as it does to me, share this video with your friends and subscribe to the channel for more stories that show how our ancestors live on in everything we do today. But do you know what's the most incredible part of all this? What really blows my mind when I think about that first bone flute? It's not just that our ancestors invented music. It's that in humanity's hardest moments, when every day was a struggle for survival, they found time to create something beautiful, They found time to make art. They found time to invent beauty. That bone flute teaches us something fundamental about what it means to be human. We are not just survival machines. We are not merely animals seeking food and shelter. We are beings that need to create, that need to express ourselves, that need to transform the world into something more beautiful than what we found. Music connects us to our ancestors in a way that no other thing can. When we hear a melody, when we feel a rhythm, when we are moved by a song, we are feeling exactly what someone felt in a cave 35,000 years ago. That flute also teaches us about the importance of creativity and innovation. Our ancestors didn't settle for the sounds that existed in nature. They wanted to create their own sounds, their own melodies, their own music. That same creativity is what has led us to invent everything we have today. Music reminds us that we are one human family. It doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak, or what culture you grew up in. Music reaches straight to your heart. It is a universal language our ancestors created, and we continue to speak it. Finally, that bone flute teaches us to never underestimate the power of a simple idea, a hole in a bone. Something so basic that anyone could have done it, but someone had the imagination to see it, the creativity to try it, and the persistence to perfect it. Next time you listen to music, remember that you are participating in one of humanity's oldest and most powerful traditions. You are connecting with your ancestors in a deep and real way. You are celebrating what makes us uniquely human, our ability to create beauty in any circumstance. Because at the end of the day, folks, that bone flute is not just a musical instrument. It is proof that humans have always been more than mere survivors. We have always been creators, artists, and dreamers. And that is the true music that resides within us.